All right, Chris, here we are in another meeting. Everyone has lots of meetings all the time and they're all recorded. But it's interesting to think there was always recordings in meetings, but it was manual. Years ago when I was watching Mad Men or, some old TV show, there's always somebody in there, writing shorthand. And then I guess the shorthand would go into longhand and then all
Well, they
the
would
action items would come out
I
of
think it
that.
was the notes that they would type up.
Yeah.
A human would type up the summary of a meeting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so there's always summaries because I guess people didn't pay attention even then. Even though they only had like 2 to 4 meetings a week, and they still needed all the summaries, but there was all these action items that came out of the meetings. But now our meetings are online. I mean, think about the number of podcasts there are, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
thousands, 100,000 podcasts. I don't know. And all of these have summaries coming out of it. A meeting has a summary. We can record Zoom calls, Teams calls. You got, the call agents that integrate with the phone systems, or you've got Fireflies and you got Otter, and they get these summaries. But the summaries, like what I find, they're a lot of times they're too short, right?
Right.
It's like, hey, I remember something in this meeting, but it's not in the summary. So the AI is actually trying to figure out what's important, not necessarily
Well,
100% accurate. Like
th and
that seem if we use all these things as a crutch, like what do you think is going to happen with the long tail of a meeting, right?
well, the problem is if it says and I'm multitasking, I'm not really paying attention because I'll get the summary, and I get an action item, then all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, well," it said the meeting note taker said, "I have an action item that I agreed to." But what's the context of that? What were we talking about, right? So the idea is like, it's great that you have some high level, but like you said, it's going to miss some points. It may say, and Chris has an action item, but okay, what was the details behind it? What did it actually have to, what was the deliverable? What was the outcome of those action items? And quite honestly, yeah, like you said, the amount of information is increased. We get, say, intercompany emails, 50 to 100 a day. Like in Mad Men, they probably typed up 3 a month, right?
Well,
And
they
we
didn't
have
have
all
email in Mad Men.
right, they typed up a letter and it got
they
distributed
they
through the
had
mail room.
remember inner office mail?
Inter-office mail, yeah, you
Yeah.
got a handful a month. Now we
Yeah.
get tons of emails, and then we have group chats about things. So the a summary of just a meeting isn't enough because okay, if I have an action item, I need the context of all the other things. Like I have to worry about, okay, was this discussion based on a proposal that we're collaborating on in a group chat? Was there, say, a distribution list? Because we don't want AI to read all our personal emails, but if it is included in distribution lists that is business oriented things, we don't have to worry about it reading our personal stuff, you know. And then like SharePoint, where we've uploaded documentation, we've, proposals, plans, those type of things. What we really need is not just an agent that can say, I have an atomic single meeting, here's a summary. There's not going to be enough detail there. I mean, maybe I could fake it that I attended a meeting, but I actually need the understanding of the details of the meeting. But that's not valuable unless I have all the other enterprise documents, right? I
Yeah.
need the context of the big picture.
Yeah, when you said SharePoint, right? So, like companies have enterprise knowledge or, they write down all their procedures, but that stuff never gets updated. Like you
Yeah.
could actually use a meeting to update that.
Hmm.
Maybe you discuss it and it becomes a piece of content, but that content in isolation is like reading the Cliff's Notes of a book, right? Like
Yeah.
you didn't actually read the book, but you kind of know the general idea of what's going on, but you couldn't pass a certification test
No. Yeah.
on a book, right? Which is important because you need the greater detail. But having all of the information, that's interesting when you said, chats. So yeah, if you had email and chat and meetings and knowledge repository, and if you had customer, CRM, finance, like if you had all of this in one holistic view,
Hmm.
then I would imagine when people ask us, "Hey, I want to train my own model," like, "Hey, I like ChatGPT, but I want to train my own model." That's what they mean. They're like, "I want it to know everything about my business, but only my business. So if I need that next level of information, I don't have to go on a research project. I don't have to go to
Mhm.
make a meeting, right? I don't have to
Right.
like generate another meeting to discuss something that I'm looking for." I mean, that's the entire idea of what people are trying to get at. But, it's hard to do because all of these things live in isolation,
Yeah.
right? In
Mhm.
a meeting is where it all kind of comes together and which is our one of our core beliefs, like, your people can't be your integration strategy. And that's what
Right.
people are doing every day.
Well, in tribal knowledge, right? Someone's like, "Oh, well, this person actually knows how process 1 works. That person knows how process 2 works. We need to get them together in a meeting." And so if you think about these agentic platforms, the idea is it has access to all sorts of different information, but really what you want is for it to be understanding the business process itself. So if you've say, then like you said, you've got a business process in SharePoint. These are the 7 steps for, a escalating a high value customer and turning them around. And you've updated it so there's now 9 steps that are relevant for the business today. You want that inside the agentic platform so it can actually refer to that in the context of how do you solve something or apply that to another problem. And so there's part of it's like, does the agentic platform have the concept of understanding your business process, which then leads to that second thing you just mentioned. Okay, it's going to have to actually get to systems of record. Like it's going to have to get to the CRM. It's going to have to get to the customer ticketing system. It needs to know like entitlements. What did the customer, what are they entitled to? They're asking questions about that. So all of a sudden you need to integrate not only just gathering the information, but integrate to systems for the real-time data to get the context. Like the process is if it's not a high value customer over $100,000 a year, maybe it's a different process. And you want the agentic platforms to actually understand the difference between the two, but they need those data feeds to
Yeah.
make an intelligent decision.
Well, that would be a way for, an agent or an automation or an AI or whatever we want to call it. That would be a way for it to actually complete a task.
Mhm.
I literally saw a demo this morning where these guys are like, "Oh, this is the greatest platform idea, yada yada." And there was a button and it says create task with AI. So literally, you push a button, some Gen AI, wizardry creates a task for a person to do. And I was like, wait a minute, this is the complete opposite. Like you should
Right.
like the software should do the work, not
You want
the
to do
software create
something.
the
Yeah.
task for the person to do. It's like complete opposite. But I mean the evaluators and the buyer in the market, they're just so confused because everyone says all these conflicting messages and nothing works together and everybody has a point product. It's only going to get worse. So if you don't
Yeah.
take a look at, okay, what is the beginning and what is the end and how do I remove steps,
Yeah.
inside there? I mean, that is the real goal. But back to the conversation agents or the meeting agents, they can be valuable, but they need to be integrated, like you said, so I can find that next level of context. So, a lot of
And
times in the sales organizations, they use the meeting recording agents, and they're looking for objections. They're looking for mentions of competitors, right? So if you see one start to increase, you do need that next level of context of like why, because a meeting summary that gets emailed to you it's just more isolated
yeah.
data.
Yeah. So in the isolation, say you decide you want to go, well, I'm just going to do best in breed and do 6 different products to solve this. You're signing up for a world of hurt of integrating this because every time there's a new system, there's a new change, you have to reintegrate it 6 times. So, thinking about like a platform, an actual proper agentic platform that has the ability to integrate to multiple systems and leverage that across different capabilities, whether it's, machine learning or it's generative AI, it's categorizations, do that once. That's really important because you don't want to spend your whole life trying to say, well, we'd like to change to a better CRM or we'd like to automate that with software, but now we have to figure out how to add that to our business process. Y- that's a non-starter. So having a platform like an agentic platform that has multiple capabilities of helping make decisions. It has that human in the loop. So our tasks need to happen, but you want them to happen automated. Sometimes they may actually require human approval, so you want to include humans in that. And then sometimes it's like, well, no, can machine learning actually make that decision for me and process it along? So I think the bigger picture is a meeting is a good starting point, but realize that's not going to solve a bigger problem. Like, it just gives you some information to associate with the business process that we can actually figure out how to solve something more elegantly. So, could
Yeah.
you have multiple agents orchestrated together to solve the problem? Sure. I've got an agent that is very specific to accounts payable, receivable. I have one for, the product catalog. But those things have to work together to be able to solve your bigger problem.
Yeah. I think, man, I wish I had this research in front of me. But it's almost like the more meetings you have, the more indicative of this problem because you're shoving people inside of this, one meeting so everyone can hear all the context. Imagine if like I'm trying to buy a plane ticket to it's not a round trip, it's multi-city and travelers are leaving from different cities, and the website just figures it out on its own, right? It
Yeah.
contacts all the GDS systems and the ticketing and the banking and all that stuff, right? But imagine that in a meeting, like you could do it, get all 16 travelers in a group call and trying to figure it out, but then it would just be a nightmare. But that's how businesses are run today, right?
Yep.
I mean, they're used to doing it that way, so they're gonna continue to do it that way, and they're gonna buy point products to solve one small little item. They're gonna record the meetings, and then they're gonna send the summary, and nothing happens, right? It just
Right.
generated a transcript summarization from an audio file. That's
Just
literally
another email
yeah,
that's not high priority that I'm not going to read.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
All right, so say you are you're a business leader and you're like, okay, I want to, like, my goal is to remove the meetings, right? And make the
Mhm.
business operate faster. Where should they start? Like they always ask us, well, I don't know where to start, right? And different people say different things, but where do you think, if someone was really going to try and tackle this issue, what would you say to do first?
So it's like you have enterprise knowledge. So you don't want AI to read every email, but you want it to be included on like group chat, group messages that pertain to the business process. You have teams that are specific to business processes that you're working with. You have SharePoint files and data repositories of information. You want to gather all those things and make them available along with your meeting notes, because probably the meetings are the last tip of discussion of the details or something's going to change. All those things need to be available together to be able to answer a question, which is great. But then it's like, okay, is this something that we do on a regular basis or we want to actually automate an outcome? Like, do we have a hot customer call every week? Well, great. What are we doing to automate letting people know about them, to remediate the problems, make sure everybody knows the timelines, like the actions, like we all agree to do these things on a specific basis in that. So we really need to step back and say we're not just gathering data for data. We need a business process that the agentic platform and all that data feeds into to help automate an outcome, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
There's no use in a single step of here's a meeting. What do you need to do from this meeting?
Yeah, I think that is a good example. Like you said hot customer, I'm thinking like of a troubled customer or a
Mhm.
customer in that could churn something like that,
Yep.
severe one, uh, priority one type of ticket or
Yeah.
something like that.
Like
That
if
would,
in, like AT&T, they have big customers and
yeah,
they can't afford to lose 1,000 phone lines or 100 phone lines, right? So that's an all hands on deck type thing, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a good example because then, as logically how you come up with those customers, but the software doesn't automatically tell you, right?
Right.
It's not like you could see a list, right? And like click a button, do this, right? But that's the
Yep.
point you want to get to, right? Like, hey,
Yep.
right now, here's your top 10 most troubled customers. And here's the reason why. Here's all the action items that you could do. Like that would be like the most tenured like group to do
Yep.
that. But essentially, the people are really just they're just running the logic that software could do anyway. Like people
Hmm.
just don't have that set up. So I think that's a
Yep.
pretty good example. And it's not really pie in the sky. I
No.
mean, you
Yeah.
can do
Everybody's
it.
worried about customer churn and
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah.
Okay. So if like right now I mean, we're recording this, but it's a podcast. But I join all these meetings that get recorded. They give you they give you notice ahead of time. Sometimes some of the products do, like, hey, we're going to record this meeting. What type of privacy ramifications should people consider? Is that a big deal? Because like everything is
It
recorded anyway. So
Well, everything's recorded anyway, almost, but right, based on your locale, if you're in Florida versus Texas, you may need someone to opt in, and usually like a Teams meeting gives you a pop up like this is being recorded, so everybody knows. And then based on your locale, you may have to have someone audibly say, "Yes, I agree. I understand this is being recorded," versus just notification. But so there's a difference sometimes with do you want to do this with internal company meetings? Sure. And then customer facing ones needs to be a little more specific to opt in to say, okay, you're outside of our organization. Does this align to your organization? So there's some privacy concerns there to get the consent from the customer. But a lot of times if you say, oh, by the way, I'm not going to send you a link to a summary and you have to then go buy a third party product to get the details. If you could actually say, and here's a link to a conversation where you can ask questions about this because you're a valued, participant like me. I want you to have access to this data. That's a totally different game. Like you could get people like there's a value in giving them that versus like, well, here I recorded it, and if you get a link, all you get is like, oh, well, buy our third party, transcript summary software to get the details. There's some value in like having a holistic approach that you make it available not only to your employees, but to your business partners and your customers so you're all working from the same page.
when you get on a customer service like phone call and you hear the beep and it's like, hey,
Mhm.
by the way, we're going to record this for
Yep.
training,
Yep.
but they don't tell you if they're training the next agent because they have 100% turnover in that organization, or they're training the AI to get rid of the person that is going to quit in 6 months.
Yep.
I mean, either or, right? So it's good training data, and I like to think of it as the dynamic content of it to update like all your procedures and everything. You would need some type of checks and balances so it didn't overwrite like a hard fast business rule, something like that. And like you said, a holistic approach when you think about the entire process across all the different organizations. It's still difficult for people because people work in one department, their budget is in one department, their reporting structure is one department. It does take someone that looks across all of the different um the different departments, but they don't have knowledge of all the different systems. Like people really don't know how hard it is.
Mhm.
And every I mean the poor guys that are always trying to get these IT projects completed, and then you have all these little shadow IT systems like these call agents and things like this. It's just it's a nightmare. It's really, really difficult. But you know, what would you advise somebody like if I'm a department level manager, I probably don't care, right?
Yeah.
You know, if I'm a senior level manager, I start to care. And obviously, the COO, right? The person that looks at, okay, how are we going to make more money with the employees we have? You know, where is this a big deal? Is this going to hit their radar?
It should, because people have a lot of wild pie in the sky of what AI should do, but this is something that's a little more practical. It's like,
Yeah.
should AI be able to listen to a meeting, cross-reference your policies, have a general understanding of how your business process works because it's read enough, say, reports on a customer project or reports on how they handled escalations of different customers. If the AI has read and consumed a lot of those, then it can actually infer and give you, okay, at your company, this is how this is handled. So there's value in that. So and that's, as you mentioned, that's actually very much across different departments because, it's everybody has to help on certain things across different departments of the company,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. All right. So definitely one, record your meetings.
Yep.
Two, manage the content, update your policies, but, create the context, right? So
Yep.
plug in all of your different systems. Don't hard code and, don't hard code all this because in 6 months, there's going to be a new tool. The AI, the AI is going to be better. Um, I think people will wait for the next thing all the time, and you just can't do that. Like I've been playing with these Gen AI presentation tools. I
Hmm.
think I'm on my third or fourth one, right? Because I keep like finding a better one, but I found one that sticks. But it's kind of integrated into my process, so it's like not a big deal to change. But that is not like changing a model that's trained on your business rules or changing an LLM for your people to summarize content. You definitely have to have a holistic approach and a platform approach to do this. So,
Yep.
any closing thoughts, Chris? I think we've rambled on this
Yeah.
quite a bit.
No, so it'll be interesting. We should take this meeting and compare it to our other podcasts and see what Krista says about that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, thanks everyone for joining. If you want to, obviously, if you want to take a holistic approach, give us a call over here at Krista.ai, and we'll help you automate anything that's automatable.